Who is the unluckiest Fortnite pro of all time? From missing out on the opportunity to play at LAN due to your nationality, to just barely missing out on an FNCS win by a single point 2 separate times, to even missing out on 3 separate LAN tournaments due to cheaters and stream snipers, these are Fortnite's unluckiest pro players. A couple of players have struggled with the so-called second place curse over the years, and fortunately, most of them end up breaking that curse, such as when Bizzle won the Secret Skirmish solos after 4 separate second places. But a select few have had major tournament wins elude them for their entire careers, when he isn't accidentally ripping it. Scented is playing Fortnite, and at one point he was one of the best IGLs in the game. Despite that, he has never won an FNCS. In his prime, he accumulated 5 second place finishes in FNCS, with 4 of them being in a row from Chapter 2 Season 4 to Chapter 2 Season 8, along with placing 3rd place 3 additional times, one of which being at LAN. And on the topic of LANs, Scented's Invitational 2023 LAN was completely ruined due to factors out of his control. Leading up to the 2023 Invitational, Scented and Clix were a top team on NA, but then in April of 2023, tragedy struck. Clix would be banned after teaming with an enemy player in a Cash Cup. This meant that Clix was forced to forfeit his qualification to the FNCS finals of that season, which meant that Scented now had no teammate just 2 weeks out from the grand finals. He tried out with Favs, but ultimately nothing happened. Fortunately, he qualified to the end of year LAN with Polarized in Season 3, but they had little chemistry together and only placed 44th. Now, Scented's 5 career second places was unlucky, but nowhere near as cursed as Thomas HG. Thomas only had 4 second places compared to Scented's 5, but 2 of those seconds were by 1 single point. In the Chapter 4 Season 1 Grand Finals on EU, Thomas and Bucke got second place to Tayson and Mustache by 1 point, coming down to a final game nail-biter where Tayson outlived Bucke by just mere seconds. To rub more salt into the wound, just a year later in the Chapter 5 Season 1 Grand Finals, Thomas would yet again get second place by 1 point, but this time it was to his ex-teammate Bucke. I can only imagine how painful that is to watch your ex-teammate win FNCS while you lose out by 1 single point again. Thomas has literally made $1.3 million playing Fortnite and is 9th on the all-time earnings leaderboard, yet that FNCS win continues to elude him. But at least Thomas had the opportunity to play for a win, unlike the next player. Bucke has lost so many opportunities from bans, it is astonishing. In the lead up to the Chapter 2 Season 2 Grand Finals, Bucke, along with 3 other pros involved, would all be slapped with 60-day bans due to surge trading, and because that particular season had 2 separate FNCS tournaments, Bucke lost out on a lot of money because of this. While the ban was certainly justified, what makes this unlucky is the lack of precedent to set going forward. All subsequent bans on pros for similar offenses after this were never as harsh. Dubs caught blatantly teaming in solo tournaments, 30-day ban. Clix asking stream snipers for heals in the middle of a match, 14-day ban, and the rules were bent around him in order to allow him to play the next season's FNCS. Kami and Seti banned for the exact same thing as Bucke, unbanned not even 24 hours later because they complained on Twitter. Literally every single pro surge trading on LAN, radio silence from Epic Games. So it is easy to see why this was unlucky for Bucke. And that wasn't all, as just a couple hours prior to the 2023 Invitational LAN, Bucke would be disqualified due to inappropriate comments he made towards a female Epic employee.
Brunette, bro. So there's just like this little brunette, like Epic employee, bro, and me and her, bro, we been. I'ma be getting some zones.
Imagine you are about to play for life-changing money at a LAN, just to be given a plane ticket home with no explanation. The culmination of these 2 factors would lead Bucke to hang up pro play for good. Truly unfortunate. But at least one could argue that was still within Bucke's control, unlike with the case of Swizzy. In the lead up to the 2023 LAN, Swizzy was an up-and-coming Russian prodigy, an absolutely generational talent. He qualified with ease after dominating the Chapter 4 Season 3 Grand Finals with Putrick, but then 2 whole months after his win, he was disqualified from LAN without warning. The reason was due to the ongoing sanctions on Russia. Even though Swizzy moved to Belarus months prior, it wasn't enough. In order for a Russian player to be eligible to earn, they must be a resident of the country they moved to for at least 6 months, as confirmed by Bucke, another Russian player residing in Serbia. But things seem to look up for Swizzy, as in 2024, he once again qualified to the end of year LAN, and this time, he was an established resident of Belarus, so sanctions wouldn't affect him. However, the story was different for his teammate, Vanya. Vanya is Ukrainian, and because the 2024 LAN was being held in the United States, it would be very difficult for him to get a working visa because he's Ukrainian. After many attempts, Vanya ultimately couldn't get a visa. This meant Swizzy had to play with a Phil teammate he had never played with prior. While he did pretty well and placed 10th, his potential was much higher. Swizzy was the best player on EU going into the 2024 LAN, so to lose out on the potential for much higher earnings was very unlucky. So on 2 separate occasions, Swizzy was barred from earning life-changing money due to factors all out of his control. This is similar to Fortnite's Unluckiest YouTuber, a guy named Paris, who is criminally underrated, so definitely subscribe to him to help him get his lucky break. So far, we have seen players lose out due to their nationality and insane curses, but that comes nowhere near the players who have been targets of illegal activity. After the first day of the Chapter 5 Season 1 Grand Finals in NA, Eomzo and his duo Rise were in the lead, but by a tight margin. But after a stellar 5 elimination third to open up Day 2, their lead would expand, but then in Game 9, their internet went out, and then in Game 10, it happened again, and that is when they knew they were being DDoSed.
Like, I literally just missed out on $70,000. Like, why are you crying? Why would I not cry? Like, what? I've never cried in this game once. That shit had me just so emotional, bro.
And it only got worse for Eomzo, as in the 2024 Last Chance Major, Eomzo missed qualification by 3 spots. But just when things were at an all-time low, he was called up to be a substitute after Chiefs' teammate couldn't attend the LAN, just for things to go back to an all-time low after he was disqualified due to improperly filed paperwork. Even though Eomzo's mom was willing to fly out to Texas to resolve the paperwork issue, Epic wasn't budging and Eomzo was sent home shortly after. But luckily for Eomzo, this was only one occasion, unlike Volx, who had this same type of activity happen to him 3 separate times. Going into the 2019 World Cup qualifiers, Volx is one of the best players on OCE. He easily qualified for duos at the second opportunity he got, but solos were a bit more difficult. However, in the very last solo qualifier, Volx was in first place going into the final game. It was looking like his tournament to win, but then he got stream sniped. A player named Quald suspiciously followed him all game and emoted near him. Eventually, the two got into a fight, and even though Volx won, it left him in shambles. Shortly after, Volx went down in 40th place, missing out on qualification to the World Cup solos because of a stream sniper. And that was the second time Volx missed out on World Cup qualification, as in week 1, he missed it by just 1 point despite being in first for the entire tournament. Later on in Volx's career, he missed out on qualification to the 2022 Invitational due to an unfortunate teaming mishap in a solo cash cup.
Oh, sorry. Hey, that's the.
Due to this ban, Volx is barred from competing in the 2022 Invitational LAN, marking the second time he missed a LAN tournament due to bad luck. But 2023 would prove to be the worst year of all for Volx. In the Chapter 4 Season 3 Grand Finals on OCE, Volx placed 3rd, just 1 placement off of LAN qualification. This doesn't seem too bad until you realize who the players in first are. The team who won this tournament, Jason Repulse, were using silent cheats in order to qualify. Despite the entire OCE community knowing that they were cheating at this point, Epic turned a blind eye to the situation and they were allowed to play on LAN. Just a couple hours before the LAN was set to start, they would finally be disqualified once Epic found out what happened. Not only was Repulse using silent cheats, but it wasn't even Repulse playing on the account. It was another ex-console pro named Forbes, who bought Repulse's account in order to make himself look more reputable. Unfortunately, it was too late by then, and the spot that should have been rightfully Volx's wasn't granted to him, meaning that Volx missed out on 3 separate LAN tournaments due to sheer bad luck, making him possibly the unluckiest player in Fortnite history. While Volx may be the unluckiest of all time, one forgotten OCE pro is likely the most unlucky player that missed out on World Cup qualification. If you're an OG, you probably remember Skyla, who is one of the most talented players to ever touch Fortnite. Despite that, he just barely missed out on World Cup qualification 4 separate times, always being 1 or 2 spots off throughout the weeks. But that is about it for the unluckiest pros. Plenty of other pros have had their fair share of unlucky moments, but the players discussed today are inarguably the unluckiest of all. If you enjoyed this video, then check out my second channel linked below, or the other videos on your screen now.